Hello, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday. For today's Fast and Easy card, we are going to be using this beautiful paper, and it's from a pack of 12 by 12 that is called Lovely Garden. Now, if you watched last week's episode, you also saw me use this yellow floral paper, and I made mention that we would be using this paper again this week. So let's get started. I have a card base this week of crushed curry. Now, even though I've been using yellow in the last little while, I have been using mostly Daffodil Delight or Lemon Lolly. So it was fun to pull out crushed curry. It is a deeper, more golden yellow. And I want to show you that it can be beautiful any time of year. It doesn't have to just be yellow for fall. All right, and then we've got our papers. I chose that same yellow print that I used in last week's episode, and then the black and white, the little polka dot, and also this green floral. Okay, I have a piece of black cardstock, and this piece measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. This is going to be a layer on the front of the card. All right, let's go ahead and start. I want to, first of all, attach my pieces of designer series paper to this black piece. And you'll see why that's step 1. I do not want to go ahead and attach this to my card base. All right, I have these 3 pieces. They're 1.5 inches wide by 3 3/4 inches tall. And I'm going to start out by just doing a little dry fit, seeing right where I want these to go and getting an idea of placement before I start gluing. As you've seen me do a time or two before, sometimes it's even helpful to go ahead and tape these into place with some low tack tape. That way they don't move around. I think for today's video, I'm going to be okay just laying them in place and not having to tape them down. But if that step helps you, make sure that you do that at this point. Tape 2 of the pieces down, usually the outside pieces, and start by gluing the center one. All right, so I'm going to pick up my black polka dot piece and add my adhesive to the back and get this one in place. By putting that middle one in place first, it will also aid in keeping those 2 side pieces positioned where I want them. All right, that's looking good. Let's go ahead and put glue on this one. Watching my bottom border, top border, the right side, and also the space between my papers. All right, that looks pretty good. And let's get this last piece down. I have some new stamp sets that I'm excited to try and to play with and to teach you and show you some fun things. But after mentioning last week about this paper being used again, I did want to stay true to that. So that is what inspired me on today's card. All right, there we have our pieces glued on to that layer. All right, the next thing that I wanted was some ribbon. And I honestly thought I was going to use this. This is a black sparkly ribbon, which is just so pretty. That was my first thought. And then I decided that I really wanted to pull out more of the yellow. So I looked through all of my yellow ribbon, and it was kind of funny because I have 4 different spools of different ribbons, all in Daffodil Delight. I have a Lemon Lolly ribbon. I also have, what was that one? I had another yellow color. I'll have to think what that is. And then I grabbed this one thinking it was crushed curry. It's actually a retired color called Hello Honey, but it looks really good with crushed curry. So that's what I'm using. So look through your ribbon and see what you have. Of course, you could use black or white. Those would be an easy choice, but I'm going to go ahead and use my Hello Honey. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it onto my card like so, just to determine the length that I need, because this edge and the other edge is going to just get tucked back and taped to the other side. So that's going to give me plenty. It's actually more than enough. And I will let you know so you don't have to worry about figuring it out on your own. This is just about 7 inches, okay? So I'm going to put that into place. I'm going to tack it down on the back of the black piece, just using some tear and tape. 2 small pieces will do. So I'm going to hold it on the front of the card right where I'm going to want it. Nice and straight. Bend this side over and tack it into place. Once that's into place, I can double check. Okay, stretch this across. I can even use the grid here on my glass mat, or if you're stamping on a piece of grid paper, just to see if everything's kind of lined up pretty straight. Goodness, I get it all lined up, and then when I let go, it moves. All right, let's do that one more time. Let's get it lined up. And wrap that side around. And put it into place. All right, now this tape that's back here is going to do double duty, because not only is it holding my ribbon down, I'm also going to be able to use those pieces as sticky anchors when I go ahead and put this panel onto the front of the card, like so. All right, so we can actually go ahead and do that. Since I started with tear and tape, I'm going to go ahead and add more tear and tape, but you could certainly take your glue and add glue if you prefer to do that way. I'm going to run my tear and tape all along this edge. And this edge. That's kind of generous. It probably doesn't even need this much adhesive on it. And then I'm going to put 2 more small pieces on the sides. I know that the piece holding the ribbon down would probably be enough, but let's just go ahead and add a little more sticky on the sides. Okay, there we have that. I'll use my Take Your Pick tool, which simply just helps me get the backing pried up, helps me get it started. And then I want to make sure that that's pressed down very well. Same thing here. Make sure that that piece holding the tape down is down very well. Okay, this layer is ready for the front of the card. All right, so I don't have the luxury of sliding it around once I put it down, since I did not use the multi-purpose glue. So I'm really taking a moment to eyeball and see if it's as straight as I can get it and equal all around before I lay it down. And there we have it. Okay, I'm going to turn it over so I can give it a nice, good press, and I don't have to worry about rubbing the front piece. Just in case, you know, sometimes you have ink on you, or even just the oil from your fingers can sometimes make it look blotchy. Oh, it's beautiful. I like the spacing. I like the clean lines. Let's put some words on here. I've been looking forward to using this to the point punch, which I haven't used in a while. This has been so popular that it sells out often. It is currently available, so make sure you look into this punch. It coordinates with this stamp set, Bright Borders, which is the stamp set that I'm going to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is choose my stamps. I think I like this one. I like the little accent on there of flowers. but still very bold, clean lines. And I actually need a little bit larger block. I was reaching for a C block, but I think a D block is going to be better. Okay, pick up my stamp. There we have it. All right, and I'm imagining this in black. I was looking at the papers as I was gluing them down. This one I think could go any direction with the leaves going off this way and that way. Obviously the polka dots could be any direction, but be careful, that yellow flower definitely is directional. So you want to make sure you cut your piece and glue it on so that the flowers are the right direction. All right, I just have a scrap piece of paper, 2.5 inches by 3 inches. That's what I'm using here to stamp this on. And then we need some words to go in the middle. And this feels very happy, so I'm going to use the yay, so happy for you stamp. And let's just stay with our black ink for today. Garden green would probably be another good choice. All right, let's see how this looks. If it's good, we'll go with it and punch it out. If not, we will try something different. All right, I'm gonna go with it. I kind of wish I had used my Misty stamp positioner, because then I could have re-stamped my words and they would have been just a little bit darker, but it's fine. I think I'm being too picky. All right, let's go ahead and punch that out with the to the point punch. Hopefully I've left myself enough to hold on to as I line it up. It's a little bit small. Well, I might have to show you guys a trick that I use. When you do have a small piece of paper and you don't have enough to hold on to it, you can just make a little handle. I'm going to grab a scrap. Maybe I have some scrap here in the trash. Okay, I would usually use a piece of white cardstock, but I have this scrap. As long as it's cardstock weight, that'll work best. I'm just going to take this, a little teeny piece of my tear and tape, and I'm actually going to tape this handle to the piece that I need to punch out. Like so, and this now gives me a handle that I'm able to maneuver my piece of paper when I've run out of space for my fingers to do it. So now I can use this as a handle, pull the paper down, line it up with the shape. And get my punch. There we have it. And then this is just trash anyway. That was just a scrap. All right, so this is going to go on here. Now this is going to need a little something to dress this up. And so I think what I will do is look through my embellishments. I'm almost wondering what the border would have looked like green and then the words black. So if you don't want to mess with it, you could just leave it this way, but I'm going to mess with it. Okay, let me grab a piece of white cardstock, a little scrap, my garden green ink pad. Then we'll have two. We can vote on A or B. All right, I'm going to clean the ink off of that stamp. And let's see what happens if we stamp it in green and then the words in black. Sometimes I actually physically make a card when I have the idea before I bring it to you in a tutorial, and sometimes I don't. I just have the idea in my head and then I sit down and create. Okay, so far I'm kind of liking that better. And then we need to add our words. This gives me a second chance to see if I can get that a little darker without using my positioning tool. I need to concentrate a little more ink on happy. All right, let's try it, friends. Let's see what happens. I feel like my stamp is crooked on the block too. So instead of making my block straight, I'm looking through it and I'm going to attempt to stamp the words straight. As I'm looking through it, I can see where it needs more ink. If you wonder why I keep going back to the ink pad. All right, one more time. I think this will do it. All right, I'm lining up the So Happy, going as straight as I can between the 2 points of the punch. My block looks super crooked, so this feels funny, but I think the words are gonna be straight. Let's see what happens. All right, there we have it. We're gonna run with this one. I kind of like the green border better. This looked a little boring. Okay, if I have enough here, I'll be able to punch it out. Otherwise, I have to use my handle trick again. And it's a bit long. Let's snip that off. This piece was a tiny bit bigger, so I'm not gonna need, I don't think I'm gonna need that handle. Oh, I might. All right, can you see what I'm doing? I'm using the sticky end of my Take Your Pick tool to help slide this into position where I want it, and that worked. Okay, that's gonna be really loud on my glass mat. There we go. Okay, I'm happy we changed it. All right, this is gonna go onto here. It doesn't just look so black and boring now. And then we'll add some embellishments. So let me reach over here and grab some rhinestones, or I have something else in mind. Let's look. Let's take a look at these sequins. I'm feeling like these yellow ones might be just perfect. Otherwise, I pulled out rhinestones. We could always choose to go that direction. All right, these are called Starburst sequins. As you can see, they come in a pink color, maybe even petunia pop. They're stuck in my package. And white and yellow, and it is a dark yellow. I don't know if it's supposed to be crushed curry, but it definitely is gonna work with crushed curry. Okay, let me show you something. The reason this stuck to the inside of my package is there's glue that got left behind. Probably what happened is in a class, someone just pulled their sequin off to use it. Well, what often happens when you do it that way is you leave your adhesive behind, and then it's no good. You have to add adhesive to it. So here was adhesive from one. Here's some adhesive from another. What we really want to do is use our Take Your Pick tool to get down underneath the adhesive so that when you pick up the gem or the sequin, the adhesive stays attached and doesn't stay behind on your plastic sheet. All right, I'm gonna put one of these here. I just think the yellow pop is perfect. And let's put a second one up there. Come on, little guy. We're gonna add a third, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this piece onto the card, and then we'll decide where our third one needs to be. I've got some Stampin' Dimensionals here. My minis happen to be within reach, so I would normally again grab the regular size ones, but because I have stood up and moved out of my place already during this video once, I don't want to have to cross the room and go get those. So I'll add 6 minis. I'd better add a 7th one in the middle. We don't want sagging. All right, removing the backings like so. I usually just take it down because I have a wastebasket right here. That way I can pull them off and drop them right in the trash. Otherwise, what often happens is those backings end up clinging to the glass and it's hard to sweep them off. Okay, here we have our sentiment. I'm liking it. And I'm going to go ahead and add my third and final sequin right over here. All right, I think it's a super happy looking card. It's bright, it's summery. It needs a white panel on the inside. So I do have that. Let's grab our white panel. This piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4, so it fits nicely on the inside of the card. If I hadn't mentioned at the beginning, which I don't think I did, my card base, my crushed curry, is 5 1/2 inches by 8 1/2 inches. I folded it at 4 1/4, and instead of our card opening this way today, we decided to go with this look. All right. This is going to go on the inside and it needs a little decoration. So let's go ahead and come back to our Bright Borders stamp set and add this little bundle of flowers. I'll grab a crushed curry ink pad. And just put some of these little flowers here. You know what? And I was just going to put it in the corner, which is very typical, but let's do it down the side. Let's do something different. I'll stamp in the center and then turn my stamp and do one down here and one more up here, just for something different. All right, this is going to go on the inside. And I think what I would do, because I did add those flowers on the inside of this card, I would use the same flowers with that crushed curry ink pad to decorate the envelope. Okay, so I'm on the team that is the No Naked Envelopes team. I like my envelope to coordinate with the card that's inside. So I would take this and add some of those little flowers to the corner of the envelope and call it good. This turned out really bright and refreshing. I love the papers. I hope you do too. And I thank you so much for watching this card tutorial. Happy stamping!